Thank you for joining us. I'm Mauricio Casillas.
And I'm Shelby Montgomery. Any moment now, law enforcement agencies from across the borderland will hold a news conference and provide an update on yesterday's tragedy.
And let's go ahead and give you a live look. This is taking place at the El Paso Police Regional Command Center in Northeast El Paso. As you can see, they're all set up, ready to go. So we're going to take you live as soon as they start speaking. And it looks like they're starting, so we're taking this live.
We'll begin the press conference this morning. The mayor will begin, followed by our police chief, then the FBI, the district attorney's office, and then the U.S. attorney's office. We've been working and coordinating with all local and state and federal officials, and so the mayor will give us the beginnings of the updates on this press conference.
Thank you all for coming. Chief Allen, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Allen for all the specifics. The outpouring of support we've had from across this nation and across this world has been phenomenal. El Paso is a resilient city. This will not define us, and we will move ahead. Let me turn it over to Chief Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, the facts of yesterday that were reported are still in place. Nothing's really changed. We're beginning to remove the bodies from the scene so that the scene can be alleviated and turned over to the public again. Later today, we'll be releasing the mug shot of the individual that's been arrested here. And with that, basically, if you have any questions, we'll provide that information to you after everyone here speaks in turn, all right?
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Emerson Bowie. To date, the FBI continues to look at a number of different potential crimes to be charged. We have initiated our domestic terrorism hate crimes fusion cell. That fusion cell is comprised of agents, intelligence analysts from the field office, as well as other places in the United States, and at our headquarters level, experts from our criminal investigation division, as well as our counterterrorism division, who look at all the various pieces of evidence, and they correlate that information to ensure that we're sharing properly and we can pursue a criminal investigation, i.e. potentially civil rights hate crime, along with any potential domestic terrorism charges that might be possible as well, and ensure that both cases can run parallel. We also, I would just like to remind everyone that anyone that has information regarding this incident can go to our website that we have posted, http://www.fbi.gov El Paso shooting. That website will allow you to load any video that you may have captured during this incident and provide information if you have additional information to provide us in our efforts in this investigation. We have completed 3 search warrants outside of this jurisdiction, and we continue to look at all other avenues and investigative leads as they are coming in.
I'm Jaime Esparza, I'm the district attorney. It's a very difficult time for our community. It's really with a heavy heart that I talk to you, but we are in the process of working together with all law enforcement, especially the El Paso Police Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the FBI. Also with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We will proceed with the investigation. I can tell you from the outset, the state charge is capital murder, and so he is eligible for the death penalty. We will seek the death penalty. The loss of life is so great. We certainly have never seen this in our community. We are a very safe community. We pride ourselves on the fact that we're so safe, and certainly this community is rocked and shocked and saddened by what has happened here yesterday. But we will proceed in an orderly fashion, and certainly we'll get ready for trial and the prosecution of this person. But if I left you with anything, it wouldn't be what we're going to do forward. I would ask you to think of the 20 lives that were lost. Those were persons in our community, and we will miss them. And all of the victims who either suffered physical or emotional impact from what happened, We are just not a community that really, this is not us. We are like the bright sunshine today. That is us. We are a really good and loving community, but we will hold him accountable.
Thank you. My name is John Bash. I'm the United States Attorney for the Western District of Texas, which covers El Paso. My grandmother has lived here for 50 years. She's 91. Since it was a much smaller community, I don't think she's ever seen anything like this in this community. My mom grew up here. My dad went to college here. I lived here when I was very young. It's been devastating for the community. I've been unbelievably impressed by our first responders, by the DA's office, by our police, FBI, in the work they've conducted. We had a very long night last night working this case. I've been in close consultation with Attorney General Barr. We are conducting a methodical investigation with our partners, a careful investigation, but with a view towards bringing federal hate crimes charges under 18 U.S.C. 249 and federal firearms charges, which carry a penalty of death. We are seriously considering those charges. We're going to conduct a methodical and careful investigation with a view towards those charges. We are also treating this as a domestic terrorist case. There's a statutory definition of domestic terrorism at 18 U.S.C. 2331. This meets it. It appears to be designed to intimidate a civilian population, to say the least. We are treating it as a domestic terrorism case, and we're going to do what we do to terrorists in this country, which is deliver swift and certain justice. With that, I think we'll turn it over for questions.
So I failed to recognize everyone in the room. The commander with the Department of Public Safety, and my name is Tommy Gonzalez, city manager. I'd like to send a message to the families, and that is that our first responders are working diligently to unify the families and get the bodies back to them as quickly as possible. We're expending all resources in order to make that happen. We'll open it up for questions now.
Can I ask you, yesterday there was some hesitation to absolutely, positively say you believe it's a hate crime. Are you closer to that now, or can you now say that you are virtually certain this is a hate crime?
Basically, from the manifesto that we first saw, we have to attribute that manifesto directly to him based on that information in that manifesto. That's where that came from. And so we're going down that road. It's beginning to look more solidly like that is the case.
And a follow-up question, if I could, sir, to any of you. We spoke to some people who were quite distressed last night. They've not heard from family members who were there. Is that being resolved right now? I know you feel a heavy heart for them too, but what is their situation?
We've got a reunification center that's turned into a grieving center over in the central area where the event took place pretty much. And as a matter of fact on that, I'd like to ask the media to be respectful of the families right now. We've been getting complaints that the media have been overburdening them with questions when actually they're more concerned about finding out about their loved ones. So we ask you respectfully to abide by their wishes. But with that being said, we're looking at all responders and everyone who has been on the ground participating in this event. We're providing them references to alleviate their suffering.
Chief, let me ask you, has the suspect been cooperative?
Yes, he has.
You used the term horrific yesterday to describe the scene.
There's not words you can place to say something like that. You know, you have to see it for yourself. When I first got into this job, I never knew there was an odor to blood, but there is. And until you firsthand see that, my description of it as far as horrific will be unserving as far as what that scene looks like. So I can't tell you what that means other than for the normal individual that doesn't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis, it will leave an impression that you will never forget. I'll just leave it at that.
The U.S. Attorney Executive asked the question, cooperative. What has he told you so far?
Well, I can't get into the details of that. Again, we have to be respectful of the fact that this person still has his rights And even though he's cooperating, we still have to keep that in play to make sure the investigation goes forward successfully.
Chief Morgan, you said that,
I'm sorry, sir.
You said that the suspect purchased the firearm legally. Do we know where this rifle was purchased?
Not at this time. I'm sure we'll find that out later with the help of our federal authorities, but right now those are particulars about the investigation that I think that we need to maintain within our purview.
Was he allowed to open carry that weapon?
I'm sorry?
Was he allowed to open carry that weapon specifically?
Is he what?
Was he allowed to open carry that weapon?
That's allowable in the state of Texas, yes.
So up until the point he opened fire, he was not committing any kind of crime?
Technically. Of course, a normal individual seeing that type of weapon might be alarmed, but technically it was in the realm of the law.
When you say briefly,
I'm sorry?
The surrender yesterday, you described briefly. Can you give us more details about where that was, how they found it, and how that interaction took place?
Well, approaching or responding officers, I believe the Texas Department of Public Safety was involved in that particular arrest. When he saw the officers approaching the scene where he was at, he basically surrendered, and that was over on the farther west side from the shooting site.
Was he in a vehicle?
I believe he was. I can't confirm that as a matter of fact, but that's where I believe he was.
Question for the gentleman with the FBI. Of those 3 search warrants that were outside of this jurisdiction, can you tell us specifically where those are?
They occurred in the Dallas area where the individual in question is from. And I believe there was some media coverage of those residents when we did it. So again, we continue to do the investigations. Not going to give any particular detail as to what was found and things like that, but a lot can transpire in 24 hours. And as we continue the investigation to gather information.
When you say cooperative, can I just get some clarification? I know you can't give us specifics, but is it substantively cooperative? I mean, someone could just say yes and no, that's my name. Is there substance to the cooperation? Without giving details, I understand it's a tricky area.
Yes, he was forthcoming with information. He basically didn't hold anything back. Particular questions were asked, and he responded in the way it needed to be answered.
A lot of people have said regarding the domestic terrorism, people in the public have said, that's what they thought it was from the moment they first heard about it. But can you walk us through the process of understanding how it becomes a legal definition and why there is a process that takes time before you declare it that?
Well, there's a statutory definition of domestic terrorism under federal law. Can you all hear me? There's a statutory definition of domestic terrorism under federal law. I think I mentioned earlier 18 U.S.C. 2331, and that definition matters for a variety of purposes. It has factors. I won't go through all of them, but the key factor here is it appears to be an intent to coerce or intimidate a civilian population. That's met here. The attack, from what we know in the public record, certainly appears to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. So we're treating it as a domestic terrorism case, as the FBI special agent in charge said they have activated the domestic terrorist fusion cell at the FBI, and so we're going to treat it that way going forward.
Sí.
¿Podría hablar sobre los cargos, lo que están investigando? Respuesta en español, por favor, fiscal.
Los cargos en este incidente son homicidio capital y nosotros en la oficina vamos a pedir por el pena de muerte. Es un incidente tan horrible que pues en esta comunidad no estamos acostumbrados a tener algo así en el Paso. Y yo también, como el jefe de policía, yo fui al Walmart, yo vi todo lo que pasó. Y yo sé que el pena de muerte es algo muy fuerte, pero en esta ocasión es algo que es necesario. Él perdió el derecho para estar entre nosotros ayer.
Ya se sabe cómo llegó al Paso de Dallas.
Sí.
We know how he got here. Can you expand on that? ¿Pueden hablar sobre eso?
We're going to close out. We're going to close
Looks
out the
like they
press
just
conference.
finished that,
and I'd
so
just like to
let's
say
take it
that
back to the live
we wanna
press
thank
conference.
Everyone who's reached out to the City of El Paso, and also want to send our condolences to Dayton, Ohio, and for what they're grieving as well. Again, the first responders, we cannot say enough with the way they responded and the way they handled this. Thank you. And if you could, media, if you could make sure you get as much information to those loved ones that have been impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And there you have it. That was the news conference from multiple law enforcement agencies giving us an update. And Shelby, I think one of the things that really stood out, this was from John Bash, who's the U.S. Attorney for the Western District here in Texas. He says they are considering this a domestic terrorism case. That is language that hadn't been used in the past when referring to the shooter. John Bash also saying that he's been talking to Attorney General William Barr, so there's communication between the Western District Court and Washington right now. And they also said that they are pursuing or looking into the possibility of federal hate crime charges and federal firearm charges, which John Bash also said that carries the possibility of the death penalty.
And the FBI is also asking for information. They're asking everyone who has video or pictures to send them in to the FBI at fbi.gov.El Paso shooting. That is fbi.gov.El Paso shooting. Again, they are treating this as a domestic terrorism case.
And I think it was interesting, too, to hear Police Chief Greg Allen talk about how forthcoming the suspect has been in terms of police interrogating them. They say the suspect has been cooperating. Someone asked a question, Chief Allen, do we know where the rifle was purchased? Chief Allen said he didn't want to give out that information at this point. But the quote that really stood out for me from Chief Allen is that he said he didn't hold anything back. The shooter did not hold anything back. He's cooperating, and they're corroborating a little bit more. They're connecting that manifesto to him, which we've been talking about all of last night and also throughout this morning.
And to add on to what Police Chief Greg Allen did say, he said they are still removing bodies from the scene, and later they will have a mugshot of the suspected shooter released for media and for the public.
Now, we want to recap how exactly things unfolded yesterday during that shooting. One of the darkest days, really, in our city's history. We're receiving reports of an active shooter at the Walmart. We received those reports as well, and of course we brought them to you live on air at KVIA.com. The news also spread on social media. Surrounding businesses, including Cielo Vista Mall, began to be evacuated. About an hour later, police said the scene was still active. Initial reports from police said that there were multiple shooters.
And Marisol, then around 12:45, officials confirmed multiple people died, and police clarified that there was only one shooter and they had him in custody. Police said at that time there was no more imminent threat. At 1 p.m., police set up a family reunification center at MacArthur Middle School, which is near Cielo Vista Mall. Then hours later, around 5:30 p.m., Texas Governor Greg Abbott confirmed 20 people died and 26 people were injured, making this the 8th deadliest shooting in U.S. history.
And I think those are some sobering words right there, to hear that this is the 8th deadliest in U.S. history. Of course, we're learning more about the victims this morning. El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar telling the heartbreaking story of how a mother died while shielding her child.
We know that 20 people were killed in this horror, but also more than 24 wounded. What more can you tell us about those victims?
The victims, John, range in age from 2 years old to senior citizens. In fact, the 2-year-old who survived and is recovering from broken bones because his mother, a young mother, 25-year-old mother, who was shot multiple times and killed, used her body to shield him and save his life.
El Paso police have yet to release the identity of any of the victims.
And videos of the shooting are going viral on social media and appearing in news, not just in the U.S., but around the world. We do want to give you a warning that the next clips we're about to show you are disturbing. The videos are from people who were inside or near the Walmart when the shooting happened. Take a look. As you can see and hear, a total of 10 shots can be heard in this video. People are hiding beneath tables of the McDonald's that was inside that Walmart.
In this other video, you can see dozens of people at Cielo Vista Mall running through the halls and businesses just to get out of there. They eventually were able to get to safety, and authorities were already outside.
And this final video recorded moments after the shooting. Now, we've blurred parts of the video that are too graphic. Adults and children can be seen running out of the building, and they ran outside, and officers were guarding the parking lot. But again, we blurred out the images because of the graphic nature.
Now to an update from Del Sol Medical Center, which is treating 11 people injured in that shooting.
Dr. Stephen Flaherty, who's the medical director of trauma, says that 8 patients are in stable condition and 3 are in critical condition.
Many of them were brought to the operating room. I believe we took 7 patients to the OR yesterday. They received a variety of procedures from a number of different specialties, some of them undergoing procedures by multiple specialties during the same setting. It was a long day. Large volumes of blood and blood products were used. I know that the blood centers here in town had a tremendous response from the community, people coming out to offer to donate blood. Extremely critical. That's the life-saving force that we give to people.
And again, that was an update from Del Sol Medical Center. Hospital officials also adding that they have been able to connect all of the patients with their family, which is some good news there.
And ABC7's Madeline Ottilie has been tracking some of the reaction from officials. She joins us live.
All across the nation, leaders are responding to yesterday's tragedy, with several voicing support and thoughts on what happened yesterday, this tragedy in El Paso. President Donald Trump tweeting, quote, "Today's shooting in El Paso, Texas was not only tragic, it was an act of cowardice. I know that I stand with everyone in this country to condemn today's hateful act. There are no reasons or excuses that will ever justify killing innocent people," end quote. And Democratic presidential candidate and former El Paso City Councilman Beto O'Rourke saying El Paso is a community that shows up for one another on our best days and on our worst, end quote. And Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, in a call to action, tweeting this morning, quote, "We have a responsibility to the people we serve to act. The Senate GOP must stop their outrageous obstruction and join the House to put an end to the horror and bloodshed that gun violence inflicts every day in America," end quote. Of course, we do continue to follow the response from lawmakers and leaders across the country. Shelby?
A GoFundMe page has been set up by a youth baseball team to help 3 victims. I want to reiterate that El Paso police have not identified any of the victims, but this GoFundMe page was set up by the X Squad youth baseball team. The post says, quote, "3 of our parents from X Squad Baseball were at Walmart fundraising for their daughter's soccer team, EP Fusion. Tragically, 3 of our parents, 2 moms and 1 coach, were shot multiple times. The 2 moms are in stable condition and the coach is in critical condition at this time. This has been a difficult time for all of us, and we are in disbelief that this has occurred in our beloved community. We will be doing this fund for all the families involved to help with anything that they may need in this difficult time," end quote. Again, we are still working to confirm this information with police.
And the interviews from some of the witnesses and families of the victims are just so hard to hear, seeing what they're going through after hearing what happened. One woman is searching for her mother last night, and another explaining what she saw as she made her way outside of the Walmart Supercenter.
There were a lot of people that couldn't get out of there.
Did you see people on the ground?
Yes. And then there was this man who was like with all blood on him because he told us that he actually carried a child with him and that got shot, and he was all covered with blood. So, but yeah, I did see a child got shot, and I saw bodies outside.
What a call. She has 7 kids, 20-something grandchildren, and I don't know how many great-grandchildren. And I'm with my niece somewhere, Angie, with me, and I got tired of waiting and waiting and waiting, and I just want to know where my mom is.
Tell me what you've done to find her so far.
So far, we stayed at MacArthur School, and we went to school there. She lives in Cielo Vista. Then my niece took me to Pebble Hills. She wasn't there. The bus was empty. All the people were gone that would live. And we said, well, I asked the cops at MacArthur, I want to know where my mom is. Where?
So gut-wrenching to hear that. And of course, we just heard from El Paso police. They said that MacArthur is still the place to go if people are looking to get connected with their loved ones. But here on your screen is everything we know about the suspected shooter. He's been identified as 21-year-old Patrick Crusius. Police confirmed he's from Allen, Texas, which is around 25 miles north of Dallas. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has vowed that this will be prosecuted as capital murder and possibly a hate crime if the evidence supports that. Now, CNN is reporting that sources say the FBI has opened a domestic terrorism investigation into this massacre. And of course, we just confirmed that from U.S. Attorney John Bash for the Western District. He's saying that this is being treated as a federal, they're looking into federal hate crimes charges, but this is being treated as a domestic terrorism case.
And jail records indicate that Crusius is being held at the El Paso County Jail downtown. He is facing capital murder charges like we've been saying.
Take a look now at this video from yesterday showing law enforcement surrounding the house of the suspected shooter. The Associated Press reporting a woman answered the door after a group of officers knocked. They appeared to speak with her briefly, and then she closed the door. A short time later, the door reopened and officers entered. Now, this map shows just how far Allen is from El Paso. If you're driving, it's over 650 miles. It's not clear whether the suspect drove all the way from Allen or if he was staying or living here in the borderland before that shooting.
CNN is reporting that part of the investigation is now focused on an online post they believe the suspected shooter uploaded on 8chan.net, an image board website. Police described it as a manifesto that said, quote, "I'm probably going to die today," end quote. Investigators say the writing is filled with white nationalist and racist language. Police say the hatred is directed at migrants and Latinos, blaming immigrants and first-generation Americans for taking away jobs. The writer cites a fear that an influential Hispanic population in Texas would make the state, quote, "a Democratic stronghold." The writer also wrote those beliefs formed before President Trump was elected president. The post said it took less than a month to plan the shooting.
Yeah, and as ABC7 showed you at the top of the hour, El Paso police and law enforcement gave an update about this mass shooting. ABC7's Michael Gordon was there. He joins us live now from the Regional Communications Center in Northeast El Paso. Michael, what did you take away from that news conference?
Mayor and police chief, among other leaders, and we got a whole bunch of information, and we're going to try to run through a lot of it now. First and foremost, we now know that authorities are in the part of the investigation where they've begun removing bodies of the deceased from the front area of the Walmart. They had been there overnight to benefit the crime scene, rather to preserve the crime scene, and now those bodies are being removed and soon to be returned to their families. We're expecting a mugshot later today of the shooter in this instance. We were told during the press conference that we should be expecting a mugshot, so that's the next thing we'll be looking forward to as we start to get into the afternoon. Now, just talking about the legalese involved here, we were told by the district attorney some really interesting information, including that they do intend to pursue the death penalty moving forward. They think very much that's something that they're going to be able to go after, and to that end, their teams, law enforcement plus the legal side of this, are looking into whether or not this instance constitutes a hate crime and other statutes that would be triggered by this being a hate crime. Furthermore, we were told that the district attorney here and other people in that department have been in contact with Attorney General William Barr, so this clearly going to the highest levels of legislative government to talk about what they're doing in this case. And they said they're going to pursue domestic terrorism charges, which is very interesting that label would be put on this case. So they're going to pursue this most likely as a domestic terrorism charge, which again, like the hate crime statute, triggers a whole bunch of other things. Furthermore, we can tell you at this point that they said the suspect has been talking with interviewing officers and has been cooperating. Now, they couldn't get into what specifically the suspect has been saying at this time. Suffice to say, he's been happy to talk with interviewing officers and give them some information at this time and help build a portrait of his motives. We can also tell you that we were told during this press conference the gun that was used in yesterday's mass shooting was purchased legally. We don't yet know where it was purchased, whether it was Texas or elsewhere, but that weapon was purchased legally. Otherwise, again, they're going to pursue the death penalty. They also said that this is not the only community suffering right now. They send their thoughts and prayers to Dayton, Ohio, where another mass shooting took place, and obviously that these are two communities that are both intertwined in their pain right now. Furthermore, these officials took every measure to say that their law enforcement reacted quickly and that the medical side of this has been moving very quickly to save lives, and we're continuing to get more updates to that end. Otherwise, we're still waiting for more information, but again, a lot of information that came out, a lot of it was on that was on the live stream that we had up earlier, and as we get more, we're going to bring you that information. Reporting live from Northeast El Paso, Michael Warden for KVIA-ABC.